Let me start with a quick recap. It all began on Tuesday night. Iran struck Pakistan. Two bases of the Jaish al-Adl were hit with missiles and with drones. 2 children died, 3 people were injured. What do we know about the Jaish al-Adl group? Well, the chances are most of you are perhaps hearing this name for the first time. The Jaish al-Adl is a Sunni militant group. Its name means the Army of Justice. This terror group was formed in 2012, which mainly operates in Pakistan and carries out attacks on Iranian soil. In December 2023, the Jaish al-Adl attacked a police station in the Iranian border town of Rask. The attack killed at least 11 Iranian police officers. In July 2023, the group attacked a patrol team near the border. 4 Iranian policemen died. Now is a good time to look at the map. This is the area we are talking about. Iran and Pakistan share a 959-kilometer border. This area is pretty much lawless, from drug smugglers to militant groups. They all freely operate here. Over the years, both Tehran and Islamabad have accused each other of allowing terror groups to launch attacks from their soil. So terrorists come in, they attack something and go back across the border. In April 2023, the Pakistani army claimed that attackers from Iran killed 4 of its border patrol soldiers in the Kech district. In January 2023, there was an attack in Pakistan's Pangur district. The then Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif pointed the finger at cross-border terror. There's a long list of similar incidents of Iran being hit by Pakistan-based terror groups and vice versa. At least those are the allegations. The question is, what made Iran bomb Pakistan now? Why did it happen? Now, a day before Iran struck Pakistan, it bombed Iraq in Syria, what it called Mossad spy bases there. The bombing followed the January 3 twin blasts in Kerman, where around 100 people were killed when blasts hit a procession that was marching towards the tomb of slain Iranian General Qasem Soleimani on his 4th death anniversary. The Islamic State, of course, claimed responsibility for that attack. Did the airstrikes in Pakistan have anything to do with this incident? Well, we don't really know. The next question, of course, how did Pakistan react to the airstrikes? Well, it began with Pakistan calling out Iran for violating Pakistani airspace. Islamabad called the airstrikes unprovoked and unacceptable. It also warned Iran of serious consequences. Pakistan then took actions tantamount to breaking off diplomatic ties with Iran. It recalled its ambassador from Iran, and it informed Tehran that its ambassador to Pakistan, who's currently visiting Iran, need not return for the time being. But then came the next step. On Thursday, we woke up to news of retaliatory strikes. Pakistan struck Iran's Sistan or Balochistan province. Eyewitnesses say that explosions were heard in a border village at 4:30 in the morning. At least one explosion was also heard in the city of Sarawak. This is where it's located on the map. Islamabad says it conducted what it called precision military strikes on so-called terror outfits. The Pakistani military used drones, rockets and long-range missiles. The airstrikes left a crater in one Iranian village, and here's an eyewitness video of what happened. Now, Pakistan claims it killed, quote, a number of terrorists, unquote. Iran does not agree. The country's interior minister, Ahmad Vahidi, told the state television that 4 children, 3 women and 2 men who are foreign nationals were killed. So did Pakistan misfire? When all of this was happening, by the way, Pakistan's Prime Minister Anwar ul-Haq Kakar was in Davos attending the 54th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum. Kakar was forced to cut short his trip and return home. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Jalil Abbas Gilani was in Uganda doing what? Participating in the 19th Non-Aligned Movement Summit and the G77 Third South Summit. He too had to rush back as the world closely watched the exchange of fire. Now, the other thing we should look at is what have the reactions been like. Now, let's start with India, where clearly and obviously the Indian reaction was coloured and influenced by Pakistan's 30-year-long history of sheltering terror groups that target India. So very clearly, India would be keeping that in mind, that history of Pakistan sheltering terror groups. When Iran says Pakistan has been shielding terrorists on its soil and those terrorists are attacking Iran, it would have a certain amount of sympathy in India and in New Delhi. So New Delhi, in its reaction, emphasized that what's happening between Iran and Pakistan is a bilateral matter between those two countries. But it also added that insofar as India is concerned, we have an uncompromising position on zero tolerance towards terrorism. We understand actions that countries take in their self-defense. The point was clear. Let's also not forget, India too had bombed terror camps in Pakistan's Balochistan way back in 2019, an act in self-defense. Other countries also stepped in. China offered to mediate. No surprises there. The dragon has been desperately trying to play peacemaker, be it in Ukraine or West Asia, and here the stakes are even higher because both Iran and Pakistan are seen as being close to China. So the spokesperson of the Chinese Foreign Ministry said the country is, quote, willing to play a constructive role in de-escalating the situation if both sides so wish, unquote. The Taliban government in Afghanistan has called for diplomacy and dialogue and also restraint. Let the irony of that sink in, the Taliban calling for restraint. Turkey has suggested that the problem should be resolved with an understanding of friendship and brotherhood. Russia has called on Iran and Pakistan to show maximum restraint. Let's move to the West. Here's what the American State Department spokesperson, Matthew Miller, said. I am quoting here. I think it's a bit rich. On the one hand, Iran, the leading funder of terrorism in the region, and on the other, it needs to take these actions to counter terrorism, unquote. The world is watching the developments very closely. It understands the possible repercussion of an escalation between Pakistan and Iran. We're talking about the world's most powerful Sunni Muslim country in military terms going against the world's most powerful Shia country in military terms. Both the countries, at least when it comes to global firepower rankings, have strong militaries. Pakistan ranks 9th as per the Global Firepower Index. Iran is 14th, and at least one of these two countries has admitted to being a nuclear power, Pakistan. So what happens if Iran and Pakistan go to war? Well, the two countries share a rather complicated relationship. The militaries of the two countries do conduct joint exercises. The ministers of the two countries often meet and greet. In fact, they met at Davos too. And there has been de-escalatory language coming as well. The Iranian foreign minister, for example, has said that the Iranian airstrikes in Pakistan targeted, quote, terrorists, not citizens of neighbors, friends and brothers. Abdullahian added, and I'm quoting again, we respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Pakistan, but we do not allow our national security to be compromised. What we did was aimed at boosting the security of Iran, Pakistan and the region, unquote. This was on the 17th of January, though before the retaliatory strike. Now, when understanding the implication of what's going on, it's very important to keep this in a global context, in the context of what's already happening in West Asia. I'm talking, of course, about Israel and Gaza and Hamas and everything that's happening out there. And Iran is a big player there. Iran has said it does not want to get involved in the Gaza war. But groups that Tehran backs, Yemen's Houthis and Lebanon's Hezbollah, are already fighting Israel and its allies, be it on land or in the Red Sea. Some analysts see this week's escalation as Iranian muscle flexing in the region. But here's the thing. Iran and Pakistan going up in arms against each other complicates a lot of calculations. If a third world war was to really break out, if what's happening in West Asia is to result in a wider conflict, one would have most likely assumed that Iran and Pakistan would be fighting on the same side because both the countries are close to China. Iran and America have no love lost, and Pakistan and America have been growing increasingly distant as Pakistan cozies up so much to China. But now, Iran and Pakistan are trading fire. So what happens next is a really interesting question. So let's now listen to some voices from the ground.
Iran should have not done this to Pakistan. Iran is a Muslim country and so is Pakistan. It is not right for Muslim countries to be attacking one another.
If Iran attacked yesterday, Pakistan had to retaliate. It is a good thing that we have retaliated. But I feel that things should not worsen from here on.
I feel that America is behind all this. America is trying to provoke everyone into attacking Pakistan, but they cannot harm us.
For more on all of this, we're now being joined from Islamabad by Major Yasir, who's a defense and strategic affairs expert. Thank you so much, Major Janjua, for joining us. What is your own assessment of where things now go between Iran and Pakistan? Is there a real chance of escalation here?
No, not because I'm a Pakistani. The factual assessment is this will not go beyond, and last night I'm sure you've seen the statement by the Iranians that we are brotherly countries and we will try to resolve this. So I'm sure what they did was that was a miscalculation of Pakistani response or reaction intention. They did not realize that if we do this, it's going to trigger such a reaction. And Pakistanis responded within 24 hours or 48 hours. And as you can see, America and Saudi Arabia and China, they've all taken positions alongside Pakistan. Obviously, when it comes to choosing between Iran and Pakistan, most nations would go with Pakistan. So, Iran,
I mean, China sort of didn't. I mean, you're right. Some of those other countries are averse and anti-Iran. The Chinese essentially are just saying, de-escalate. Both of you are allies of yours. You know, let's have a de-escalation, restraint on both sides. Is what the UN and China are saying.
Chinese are. I must say, Chinese are very, very smart in diplomacy. They don't antagonize their allies one over the other. So they have very strong relations with Pakistan, you all know, and then they have an ongoing relationship with Iran as well. So they don't want to. So that's why they are probably going to try and mediate, if at all, to normalize the relations. That's why Chinese have taken a middle ground, if you say so. Americans and Saudis have taken the sides with Pakistan, understandably. UAE also is taking sort of a middle ground, if I may say so. But to come back, that the escalation, I don't think this is going to escalate into anything further. If it had to, it should have escalated yesterday when we responded with an attack in which 9 people were killed. So I don't see in the real world any escalation of this going beyond what has already happened.
Let's set escalation aside and look at some of the broader aspects of this. If you look at Pakistan's relations with, the Islamic world or Islamic countries, there used to be a time when Pakistan was very close to the Sunni nations, right? Saudi Arabia and UAE and others. They've become reasonably close, friends or partners of India in recent years. So that that tilt to Pakistan has gone down. Iran, therefore, was a possible, country for Pakistan to lean on. The fact that even if there's not a shooting war with Iran, the fact that there will be tensions with Iran for a period of time, should that cause worry to Pakistan? Because then in the Islamic world, the only ally that Pakistan has really got is Turkey.
I'm sure you will acknowledge that 2-3 years ago, almost 2.5 years ago, when Prime Minister Imran Khan was in the government, Pakistan was involved in extensive backchannel diplomacy between Iran and Saudi Arabia for normalization of their relations. And we can, whether you admit it or not, we can take credit or be proud that whatever warming up of relations or diplomatic relations or resumption of diplomatic relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia did happen. Pakistan started it. Eventually, there were some other nations also who jumped on the
bandwagon. Whether anybody else gives credit or not, the fact of the matter is that if Pakistan was to get credit for that, Iran is bombing Pakistan right now, and Saudi Arabia is not being particularly friendly anymore either.
Right. So you are absolutely right. What I'm trying to say here is that Pakistan was always trying to be the friend it should be, because, as you know, the two things you can't change in life is your blood and your neighbors. So we have to live with neighbors, good or bad. So that's why we want that Iran, we should always have that. We have had troubles with Iran because of Shia Sunni, because there has been sectarianism in Pakistan, and there's been a blame game on Iranis or Irani-backed groups that have been fomenting that sectarian violence in Pakistan, Shias or Sunnis fighting with each other. However, at the government level, we have been trying to remain those diplomatic, in those diplomatic...
Right. Major Jandra, what you just said was an important point, that, neighbors are there and neighbors are there forever. Does it concern you, because it should probably concern you, that all of Pakistan's neighbors right now seem to be accusing Pakistan of the same thing, sheltering terrorists aimed at their territory. India has, of course, gone on for 20, 30 years. You know that. Afghanistan pretty much saying the same thing, both earlier and even the Taliban saying it now. And now Iran is saying the same thing. Every one of Pakistan's neighbors are saying that Pakistan is sheltering terror groups that are aiming their neighbors. That's not a good record to have or a good reputation to have.
I'm not surprised by this question, but although your tone is very, very professional, but this is the exactly same wording of the question I had from another Indian channel yesterday on the same topic, but the facts are different. The facts are that Pakistan has given the dossier against BLA and BLF terrorists to Iran and to the United Nations quite a few times, and we have identified locations where they're hiding. And that's where we have hit them yesterday. So any Lashkar-e-Jandal or whatever they call it, if there are any Iranian dissidents in Pakistani territory, has Iran ever given us the list of people they wanted to be apprehended? No, they have not, but we have identified. Now, as far as Afghanistan is concerned, actually, we are the victims of terrorism emanating from Afghanistan. Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan has been taking refuge inside areas in Afghanistan and operating and causing the violence in Pakistan. We are the biggest victims of violence. I'm not going to sit here and talk about terrorism with India, because this is a debate that will never end between India and Pakistan.
But fine, let's just park it there for a moment. Major Jandra, thank you so much for joining us with that perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let's get another perspective on this. A short while back I was saying that Pakistan's only real friend and ally in the Muslim world now, given what's happening with the Sunnis and with Iran, may well be Turkey. Let's get Dr. Mahmut Chelik now joining us, political analyst and journalist at Daily Sabah. Dr. Chelik, as you're seeing what's happening between Iran and Pakistan, what would be your own interpretation of this, looking at it from Istanbul?
Well, first of all, I think it's a very dangerous escalation of tensions in an area, in a region where there's already, lots of tensions, lots of international risks. But if we were to look at the very recent exchange of clashes between Pakistan and Iran, I think we should look at them from a domestic level in what is happening in Iran, but also we should put this development into an international context as well. As you know, very recently, Iran was attacked via two bombings in Kerman, which many people lost their lives. Now, to show that domestically, to show that Iran is still powerful, Iran is still capable of defending itself against these threats, and to actually address the internal pressure, I think the leadership had to respond in this matter. And
but Dr. Chelik, is that where possible further escalation can come? Because if that's what Iran the Iranian leadership was expecting, the fact that there's been a strike in the reverse direction may put them under pressure to then have follow-up actions.
I think, despite this exchange of attacks, I don't think this will escalate to a very hard confrontational battle between the two countries. Yes, there is these disputes along the border, but both of them have, in their statements, from what I understand, is that they are saying that, we will attack these threats against their sovereignty, but I don't think this will turn into a one-to-one confrontation and full-out war between Pakistan and Iran.
You have a situation out here where Pakistan is accused not just of India. India's been saying that Pakistan supports terrorism for 20 to 30 years, but also by two Muslim countries, Afghanistan and now by Iran, saying that Pakistan is shielding terrorists, aiming at those countries. Now, Turkey being one of the few close strategic partners and allies of Pakistan, what advice do you think the Turkish government is going to be giving Pakistan right now, if any?
Well, Mr. Fidan and the Foreign Ministry yesterday, they released the statement, and their remarks are actually directly linked to this confrontation between Iran and Pakistan, that they call them to common sense, and they offered mediation, and they said that they're ready to share experience. But when it comes to these accusations about who is hosting more terrorists within their border or terrorist activities, I think those accusations are, they will be there, as there is that in that part of the region, there is that rivalry for political influence, not just military, and not just a race of military armament. So those accusations are always there, but they're not just directed at one. All the accusations that are directed at Pakistan and other countries can direct them, and they do direct it at other parties as well. So this, I think, gets us nowhere. There's these accusations. Only the region's people suffer from these rivalries and instability. I mean, how can Pakistan and Iran, their people, benefit, or India, or Afghanistan, or Turkey, we see what's happening in Syria and Iraq for the past 2 decades or more. So I think it is time for all the region's leadership to come to common sense and de-escalate tensions instead of escalating them.
All right, Dr. Chelik, thank you so much for joining us with that view from Istanbul. Thank you.
Thank you.